Welcome back to another episode of Triple FMK, where I watch the horror movies and I let you know if I'd rather fuck it, marry it, or kill it. I'm Jay, and on this episode, I'm going to be covering a 2020 American action thriller horror film called Becky. This one was another one that I came across it and actually just watched it last night. I've scrolled past it many times. I've seen it, and I think I watched this last night on Showtime, but I've seen it and I've just kept scrolling. And then last night I'm looking for something to watch, and I decided I was going to give this one a try and see how it goes. And here's the reason why I've kind of scrolled by it, because it kept showing up underneath when I would look for like horror, and then it stars Kevin James, King of Queens, those types of movies, the comedy type side. And I'm a fan of him. I really am. I like pretty much everything he's done. And so when I seen this, I just thought, oh man, it's going to be one of those like cheesy comedy type things maybe. And sometimes I like those. I just got to be in the mood for it. And so that's why I kind of stayed away from it for a while. Like I said, it came out in 2020, so it's been around. I haven't really heard much on it. I don't hear people really talk about it much. So I was just like, well, shit, I want to just give it a try and see how it goes. And so last night I started watching it, and some of the cast in this one, Becky is directed by, I got these on my notes right here, so I got to read them. Jonathan Malo and Carrie Murnion. Can't pronounce that right. So directed by those two. It stars Lulu Wilson, plays Becky. Becky is the daughter to Jeff, who is played by Joel McHale. And another name everybody knows, that he was in that show called The Soup. That's one of the shows he was popular on, that he's known for. He plays the father. Amanda Brugel, Brugel, plays Kayla, the girlfriend to Jeff, and she has a little boy, Isaiah Rockcliffe, who plays Ty. And so this one, I didn't go into it with high hopes, because like I said, I just assumed it's going to be a cheesy type comedy, and I like a good like comedy horror, don't get me wrong, but I just got to kind of be in the mood for it and want to see that. But for this one, I was going to give it a try. And so I watched it last night. And then after I watched it, I decided I want to do a show on this one, because I haven't really seen much on it. I haven't really gone looking, but it wasn't one of those that it just kept popping up. People were recommending it. So I watched it last night, got up this morning and decided I was going to jump on here and do a show on it. And things will be a little different today on this show, because normally, if you've all watched along, throughout when I do a show, there may be a break here and there to where I'm having to take my gentleman and Jack break. But the change for today is I'm recording this at like 5:30 in the morning. So I'm an early bird. I get up early. And so this is like 5:30 a.m. So I could have done the gentleman and Jack this morning, but I feel like if I'd have been up at 5:30 doing gentleman and Jack breaks, at some point people would show up. My wife and all would be wanting to hold an intervention, thinking maybe I got a problem. So for today, there will be a break, but I got the coffee. I'm a coffee guy. There isn't a day of the week goes by that I don't start off with coffee. So today, if there's a break, it will be a coffee break. So that will be the change for today. No gentleman and Jack, which will be a first. I don't know if I've ever done an episode yet to where I was not drinking gentleman and Jack. So this will show people that I don't have a drinking problem. I can do this without the gentleman and Jack. So some of the housekeeping stuff, go follow us on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. There is a TikTok. I don't mess with TikTok much as far as posting on it. There is a website that we have set up. You can get to that link in all of the social medias, Fright Flick FMK. You can go there, click on it, click on the link, will take you to the website. Website's got links to all the social media sites. It's got links to all the podcast sites. It's got links to the YouTube. It's got a link to the little store where you can get Triple FMK merchandise if you would like. If you've checked out the last few episodes that have come out, if you've liked them, subscribe to them, subscribe to the show. If you've commented, if you've just took the time to listen, I appreciate it. But yeah, I think that's it for the housekeeping stuff. Not going to waste a lot of time on that. We're going to jump right into Becky. Becky, I want to read the little plot description, how this thing gets going. I want to read this real quick. We got a spunky and rebellious Becky trying to reconnect with her father during a weekend getaway at a lakefront house. But the trip soon takes a turn for the worst when convicts on the run, led by the merciless Dominick, suddenly invade their home. Dominick is played by Kevin James. So that's who Dominick is. So we got Becky, the daughter, Jeff, the husband, Kayla, the girlfriend of Jeff, and then their son, Ty. And Kevin James plays Dominick. When this one kicks off, you're going to have Becky is being questioned by like a law enforcement officer and maybe like a psychologist or something there, trying to interview her. She's 13 years old, so young teenager, asking her about an event that took place at her family's house. And while they're doing this, she's having flashbacks, and Becky's just kind of giving answers like, oh, just kind of basic, don't really remember much of what went on. And so that's kind of how it starts off. But then we jump backwards to about 2 weeks, I think. And we've got Becky in school, and Becky's going through a hard time because her mom just recently passed away. I'm not sure. It was some type of, I don't know if it was cancer or whatever. It doesn't really say, but she passed away. So she's having to go through that. Her and her dad are not on the best of terms. Going through that, that would have to be hard on the kid. So he's trying to reconnect with her. And when this thing starts off like this, it's kind of going back and forth. You're getting Becky in school, and she's kind of getting bullied. It shows her like on the ground getting bullied. Well, then we jump to the prison where we have Dominick, Kevin James, and there's like a brawl going on right there in the middle of the prison. And then you have Kevin James, and this one prisoner guard walks by Kevin James, hands him like a shank or a weapon or something. He goes over there and starts stabbing somebody. And then all of a sudden you hear, it goes back to the school scene, you have the teacher coming in, breaking up the fight, saying, hey, break it up, break it up. Well, then you got flips back to the prison guys coming in, hey, break this up, break this up. So they're kind of going in sync. And when it shows Kevin James for the first time, he's got like this full-on beard. Then he's got like these neo-Nazi symbols tattooed on the back of his head. And so you can tell he's one of those neo-Nazi type guys that just seem to hate everybody. But it goes back to the high school again. And then Becky's in class. They get a call over the intercom. Becky, come out to the office. Your dad's here to pick you up. So it shows Becky going out the doors of the school. And then it flashes back to the prison. You got Kevin James and a group coming out the gates of the prison. Becky's dad, Jeff, is there to pick her up. And they go to hit the road. Well, then we're back to the prison. Prisoners are getting loaded up onto this transport armored bus, van, whatever this thing is. And so then it shows we're back to Jeff and Becky. They're driving down the road. And it flashes back. We got the prison truck driving down the road. And in the prison truck, there's another prisoner in there who is part of this whole thing. He's Robert Mallet, something like that. But his name is Apex in the movie. He's going to be like the little sidekick to Dominick, Kevin James, in this. So in the back of this little armored truck, the big guy, Apex, looks over and just basically, they're all kind of handcuffed, but they can still move their arms up and down. He reaches over there and basically just grabs the dude next to him by the throat, chokes him out, throws him in the ground on the floor. Well, then Kevin James is like, Dominick's like, hey, there's something wrong with this prisoner back here. So they're having to pull over. And then you kind of, okay, we know what's about to happen there. That they're going to get away. And then we back to Becky and her dad riding down the road, and Jeff's trying to talk to her. He's explaining to her that they've had a hard time. He knows that she's adjusting. They're not really close right now. But Becky's got some, headphones on, I believe, if I remember right. And he's basically trying to talk to her. She's not listening. And basically he's driving her out, and she doesn't realize that he's driving her out to the cabin that her mom owned. And so she's kind of like, why are you bringing me out here? I don't guess they've been there since her mom died. He has been saying he was going to sell the cabin. And so she wasn't happy about that. They get out to the cabin. And when they get out, they got two dogs with them. They're two Cane Corsos. One of them's named Diego, and the other dog I can't remember the name of. I just totally slipped my mind. It's an older Cane Corso. Diego is Becky's. So they get out there, and she's upset. Well, he tells her, she's basically like, why are you going to sell the cabin? He tells her, like, I'm not going to sell the cabin. And so that made her happy. Like, she was excited that they're going to keep the cabin, not going to sell it. And while they're standing there, a car pulls up. And Becky kind of looks, and she's like, why is she here? Well, then we bring in Amanda Brugel, who is Kayla, and her son, Ty. That is Jeff's girlfriend. They show up, and Becky is not happy about this. Her mom done passed away. I don't know. I think it may have been a year or so, because there's a couple of times where Jeff's like, it's been a rough year. So I'm thinking there's been a year or more that her mom had passed away. And Jeff and Kayla have been dating. So she's out there. Becky's not happy. And he's trying to, and Jeff goes up to Ty, talking to him about the dogs and how trained they are and how Becky makes them do tricks. And Becky's just not going to have nothing to do with it. She doesn't like the fact that Kayla's there. She's not going to make any effort. And so she kind of goes off, playing with her dog, Diego. And then we jump back to the prisoners, Dominick and Apex. They pull over a car, and you see that Kevin James and them they're in like a police uniform. It's like, I guess they had taken the police uniforms of the ones that were escorting them. They pull over this car. The guy in the driver's seat, he basically asked him to step out of the car. This guy gets out of the car, and he's basically like, my partner's going to inspect your vehicle. Doesn't really say if you were speeding or what the deal was. It just stops him. They're standing out in the road, basically is what they're doing. And so the guy gets out, trying to get his license registration. He asks if he's around the area, and the dude's like, yeah, I'm literally like a half a mile up the road. He was on his way home. And so then Apex opens up the car door, and in the back seat, you see that he's got a daughter and a son. And Kevin James is talking to the guy. And when he says, I'm like a half a mile of road, out of the blue, Kevin James goes, well, if a gunshot from a half a mile from here, your wife would hear it. And the guy kind of looks at him. They know Kevin James grabs him by the head, just slams him against the window. And you see like the blood all over the window. Basically, he kills this dude. The kids start screaming, and Apex is at the back door. And it doesn't show anything, but just so you all know, they kill the kids. It doesn't show it. You don't see anything about of that. They kill them. And you find out later that they kill them, because you'll see some comments that come about that later on in the movie. And so, and they're basically, they're going to take their cars, what the whole plan was. Well, then we jump back to the house, to the cabin out there, and they're all having dinner. Jeff, Kayla, Ty, Becky, they're all sitting there. And Becky's just being typical teenager, upset that somebody else is here. Like, this apparently was the first time that Kayla and Ty had been out to the cabin. So Becky's like, this is my mom's cabin. Now you're bringing out this other girl. And so she's not happy. So they're sitting there eating. She's not really paying any attention. Jeff's trying to talk to her. And he's like, hey, there's something I want to talk to you about. And as soon as he said this, I know, like, I was like, him and that lady are engaged. Like, You brought your daughter out here to her dead mother's cabin that Kayla and Ty have never been to, but yet now they're here. And the first weekend back, you're going to tell her that you and Kayla are getting married. And so when he starts talking to her, and that's what it is, he tells her that they love each other and they decided to get married. And Becky's just kind of in shock. And she basically just loses it, looks at Kayla, and basically says something like, my mom would hate you or something like that. She wouldn't like you. She would hate you. She goes running out the house. You know, she's got her dog, Diego. They take off. And so Jeff decides, hey, I'm going to go out there and talk to her. Kayla and Ty still sitting at the kitchen table. They go out there and they have a fire pit. And that's where Becky's sitting. They have a little fire pit going. And Jeff goes out there to talk to her. And he's out there for a little while with her trying to. And Becky's not hearing it. You know, Becky's just upset little girl. So while this is happening, Kayla and Ty are in the house. Doorbell rings or knock on the door. I can't remember. And so as soon as she starts going to the door, and you already kind of like, okay, that's going to be Dominick and Apex at the door. Well, she goes to the door, and it doesn't really show anything. She just goes to the door. Well, then it goes back to Jeff and Becky outside. They're sitting there talking, and then Becky, once again, not going to hear it, upset. She basically leaves. Her and her dog go out into the woods. She has a little fort out there, little playhouse type thing she's had. So she goes out there with Diego. And Jeff, you know, just going to let her cool off, I guess. He's going to go back into the house. He goes back into the house, the back sliding glass door. He sees Ty sitting there. He's like, where's your mom? Ty's like, I don't know. And then he goes around the corner of the house. And then you have Kayla standing there with Dominick. And he's like, and she's like, oh, he lost his dog. He's out trying to find his dog. And so she offers to get him a glass of water. Him and Jeff are talking. And you see Apex coming around the back side of the house. And you see him through the sliding glass door. And though Jeff starts kind of asking him some questions, trying to get, you know, find out Dominick, like, hey, what kind of dog is it? And he basically, Dominick just goes walking into the house. Like he's like looking around and he sees that they have a cane corso because the older dog is there in the house still with Ty. And so he starts talking about the dog thing. And then this whole thing kind of, it starts kind of coming together. They're in this house. They're going to hold them hostage. And I can't remember how he goes about it, but basically he gets Jeff somehow. Well, then Kayla and Ty take off running. And then Dominick looks at Apex and like, go get him. She's going for her phone. She does grab her phone, runs into another bedroom. Apex comes in there and he grabs the phone, breaks the phone. And she's like, please don't kill us. Please, please. And Apex looks at her and goes, I need y'all to go out the side door of the house and get out of here. So he's like trying to give them a chance to get out. So he comes back in there, and then Dominick's there with Jeff. And he kind of looks at Apex, and Apex is like, I took care of it. I took care of the phone. And basically, Dominick wanted him dead. But Apex didn't do it. He said, I took care of the phone. So then we got Kayla and Ty go out the house. They're going up this little trail out to the woods. And we go back to the playhouse. And Becky's in there pissed off. Like she's throwing shit, screaming, tearing stuff up. Like she's just mad. Well, then she comes across some stuff in there, and she picked up like this. It was like this little skull. Then she had picked up like this. It's like a key on like a little rope type thing. It's like a key. And so she's standing there. Well, then she hears something out the window. She goes and looks out the window, and she sees two guys coming by who are two other people that are tied in with Dominick and Apex. Those two are Cole and Hammond. Cole's played by Ryan McDonald, and Hammond's played by James McDougal. Cole and Hammond. And so they're walking around. She hears them. And they go walking off a little further. Well, then she takes some binoculars she had. She looks out her window and she sees them out there on the trail. Well, on that same trail, here comes Kayla and Ty trying to get away. Ty is waiting for the dog. And I wish I could remember her name, but I can't. But the other dog was kind of behind. And when she comes around, you can tell she's a little older. But so Ty's like, I'm waiting. And she's like, Kayla's like, he'll catch up. Let's go. When they heading up the damn trail, they bump into Cole and Hammond. And I think it was Cole. Cole has a gun. And he's sitting there basically talking to him. And he's like, what are y'all doing out here? And she's like, oh, we're looking for our dog. We're waiting on Becky. And she called the dog Becky just so they wouldn't know of like, that's why they're out there. And she's like, we're looking for a dog. And they're kind of looking like dog. And you can tell Cole and Hammond don't like dogs. And so next thing you know, here comes the other dog, the King Corso, around the corner. And it can kind of tell the dog picked up on this wasn't normal. Y'all not supposed to be here. This dog gets a running start, like it's coming after him. And then, and if you're an animal person, if you're an animal lover, this part right here is going to be, look away. But I'm not an animal person. I'm not. I don't have pets and stuff like that. So animal stuff don't bother me. But I know a lot of people are. But Cole starts shooting. And you can hear he shoots the dog. And he shoots it probably 2 or 3 times. So if you're a fan of the animals and that stuff really bothers you, then you fast forward through this, look away or whatever, mute it so you don't hear the dog when she yelps, and then he shoots her. So that is, and it does show the dog after it's dead laying there, and you can like, because Cole's kind of standing over it. And so they're back in the house, and Jeff's thinking, basically they're asking questions. He's thinking that they've all got away. He's trying to play this thing out. And next thing you know, here come back through the door of the house, Cole and Hammond with Kayla and Ty. They bring him over there, put him on the couch with Jeff. And so Dominick's basically telling him he's there for one thing. Once he gets what he needs, he can leave. And so Becky has seen what went down. And so she basically tells Diego to wait there. She shuts the door. He's still in the playhouse. She goes back to the house. She's looking through a window. She can see that they're all sitting there. And though she goes to her room and she lifts up the window. While this is going on, and it doesn't explain this part. Kevin James, Dominick, is down there in like the basement area of this house. He's looking along the cement block wall inside the holes of the cement blocks. And he's looking for something. He pulls out this box, and the box is empty. And so he's upset that the box is empty. Well, the entrance to this little basement is in the closet of Becky's room. So Becky's at the window. She looks over and she sees her backpack with her cell phone in it. Then she sees a little handheld radio. Well, she's trying to reach her bag with her cell phone. She can't reach it. Well, then Dominick's coming back up. He flips open the door. She sees it. She's got to hurry up. She grabs a little handheld radio. And then she takes off and hides. Dominick comes back up. He sees the backpack. He doesn't realize that Becky is the daughter. They had basically explained to him that Becky was the dog. And so he sees this backpack, and on the phone or the backpack, it actually says Becky on it, I think. So he comes in there with the backpack, hands it to Jeff, like, what kind of backpack is this? He hands it to one of the guys, and to Cole or Hammond. And he's like, does that look like a backpack that could go on a dog? And because he sees the name on it. And then he was like, Becky is not the dog. Becky's the little girl. So Jeff's trying to play this thing off. He's like, hey, she's not here. She's in Atlanta with her mother. And he goes, well, why is her bag and cell phone here? Like, Jeff's trying to push this thing off. And well, then Dominick is cold, man. He's cold. Kevin James plays a cold-hearted motherfucker in this one. I will give him that. And he basically comes around the corner of the table, pulls his gun out, shoots fucking Kayla right through the leg, in and out. And so he's basically telling him, like, you're going to fucking tell me where she is. I know you're lying to me. And while he's getting ready to do some more shit, he was threatening to hit take Ty, Becky takes that radio and she calls. And so then her and Dominick are on this little handheld radios because the other one's sitting right there on the table at the door. And so they're sitting there talking. Well, Kevin James is basically telling her, like, hey, I want my key. And she's kind of playing like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's kind of like, I'm going to show you what happens when you lie. And so he basically takes Jeff, her dad. Jeff was right. Yeah, Jeff is the dad. He basically takes him out there to the fire pit. Him and Apex take Jeff out there. She's out in the woods because she tried to lie and be like, oh, I went to the neighbors and called the police. Well, Dominick ain't stupid. Him and Apex were talking. He's like, the nearest neighbor's like 1.5 miles away. And them little handheld radios she had is not going to reach that far. So he knows that she's still somewhere in the area close by. And so he tells her, like, I know you're lying. I know you're out here. They go out to the fire pit. And he got there they were going to do some s'mores. They got some marshmallows out there and stuff. So Kevin James is sitting there putting a little marshmallow on the thing. And he's talking to Jeff and basically trying to get Becky to get him the key. And once again, they're trying to play. Becky's not really saying nothing. She's trying to play it off and like, the police are coming. So he basically is going to tell Jeff, he's like, I need you to get on the radio here and you tell her to go get my key and bring it to me. Well, he puts the radio up to Jeff. Jeff basically starts talking to her and then he starts yelling like, you need to run, you need to run. Well, that pisses Dominick off. And he gets on the radio. He's like, you better not run. And so he basically takes, he had that little poker that he was putting the marshmallows on, had that thing sitting in the fire. He had that thing red hot. So basically he told her, he said, because I'm going to cause your dad some pain because you lied to me until you're going to get me my key. So he pulls that poker out. He comes up to him and puts it right on the side of his face. Jeff screaming. Becky's in distance. She knows what's going on. And once again, he's like telling her, like, you need to get my key. And so he's going to keep torturing Jeff until the key. Well, Becky decides, hey, I'll get you your key. She takes off running back to the little playhouse because that key that she's seen earlier was the key he's looking for. And so she's running back. He takes that poker again, gets it really hot, and he's like shoving it into his stomach. And you can hear Jeff just screaming. Becky can hear it, and he's just digging into his stomach. And Becky comes back with the key. And basically she's got on the radio saying, I got the key. And while he's on the radio with her, Apex goes over to Jeff to do, I can't remember what he's going to do. Well, Jeff gets loose and goes to put up a fight. And when he he stands up and kind of headbutts Apex. And Apex is a very large gentleman. Like I looked him up. He used to be big into wrestling. And so if anybody who's followed wrestling for a long time, he spent some time, he did a lot of stuff overseas, but he did spend some time here in the States in like WWE and stuff like that. But this dude's huge. So Jeff kind of jumps up, headbutts him. Then Kevin James comes at him. He kicks him somehow. I don't remember how it all went down. So he kicks him, he falls down. Jeff gets up, he starts trying to get out of there. And moving kind of slow because, motherfucker just had his insides kind of burned up a little bit. So he's heading up that same trail that Kayla and them went up earlier. When he comes up that trail, he sees Becky standing there. And he's telling Becky, you need to run. But she has the key. And so you hear a gunshot. And then, bam, down goes fucking Jeff. I was surprised because I just didn't see that coming. I was, you watch movies and you kind of figure out. I thought this was going to be one of them where it wasn't going to go that hard and it was going to be some shitty stuff, but then the main ones are still going to make it. No. They shoot and fucking down goes Jeff. Becky starts screaming, takes off running. Her dad just got shot. She takes off running. She goes back to her little fort. And of course, Apex, James go back into the house. And I left out a part. During this, when Becky got up to the hill and she seen her dad get shot, Kevin James, Dominick, sees her standing there. He shoots. He's the one who shot her dad. She's screaming. Next thing you know, Kevin James starts off in a dead sprint like a madman. And at that point, he really came across as like, this dude is just cold-hearted. And once again, I like that. I'm used to him being comedy, funny type shit. No, this dude was straight up mean in this one. He takes off running in a sprint at her and basically grabs her. And he's sitting there basically was going to kill her. Well, she had that key. She pulls that key out and punches him right in the eye with it. And when, of course, in that key, right in the eyeball, he rolls off, starts screaming. She hauls ass. But then they go back into the house. You got fucking Cole and Hammond up in there. Hammond's up in the kitchen. Hammond's the chunky one. He's up in the kitchen, like snacking on some shit. Well, then when Dominick comes into the kitchen, he sees him like blood all over everything, and his fucking eyeball is literally just hanging out. And it shows it like they had some good stuff up in this movie. His eyeball's hanging out, and he basically tells Hammond to just cut it off. And so Hammond's digging through the drawer. Hammond pulls out a pair of them little kid scissors, and them scissors they give you in kindergarten type shit where it's just good enough to cut some construction paper if you're lucky. And so those type of kitty scissors. Well, he's basically holding the eyeball, and Kevin James to tell him to cut it off. He's trying to cut through it. And Kevin James is yelling because these little fucking scissors ain't cutting nothing. You see it just kind of digging into the fucking eyeball shit hanging out. And he kind of looks at it like, what the fuck is this? And he was like, and so he just basically goes over and grabs a fucking butcher knife off the little knife thing. He puts his head down on the counter, pulls the eyeball, holds the eyeball there, and basically takes the knife himself and chops it off. And then he picks it up and just throws his eyeball into the sink. And that's the first part of like that whole part where shooting his dad and showing that kind of like gory type eyeball hanging out shit. That's at that time is where I realized like, okay, this isn't going to be like that comedy haha Kevin James type movie I thought it was going to be. And so he's pissed off. He goes back in there. He basically sends off Hammond and Cole. You need to go find her. Whatever you got to do, I need that key. You don't ever really know what the key's for, but he just wants this key. And so they take off out into the woods, and Becky just seen her dad get killed. Her mom just died. The dog got killed. So it's just her and Diego. Becky just flips a switch, and it's kind of like this, just like commando style shit. Starts rigging up some shit in her damn playhouse. She grabbed her a bunch of fucking colored pencils, taped them together, and then she grabbed her a ruler, snapped the ruler off. Well, then Cole shows up trying to talk to her. Hey, if you'll just give me the key, I'll leave. And so he's trying to get her just to throw the key out. He just wants, so he wants to be done with everything. And so she's like, okay. So Cole's standing out there, and she had a little plan where she had a little trap door that went up to the top of her playhouse. She gets up there, and she had like this silver dollar. I don't know what it was. And she pretended that was a key, and she threw it. And when she threw it, he was kind of like, oh, great, great. And so he goes out there, starts looking for it. Well, you don't realize that fucking Becky has a zip line hooked to her playhouse. And I'm assuming maybe it's one of those that ran from the playhouse back to her house. I don't know. So she gets on this fucking zip line, jumps off of it, comes zip lining down to fucking Cole. Cole spins around, has a gun, tries to shoot, and she basically takes that fucking ruler that she just snapped off, and you see her swing it at him. But then she comes off the little zip line. You look over there, and she had put that fucking ruler right in Cole's neck. And shit's bleeding everywhere. And she could have just, kept running. No. Becky's pissed off. Becky goes at damn Cole with that stack full of pencils that were all taped together. She goes up there and she starts stabbing. Like, she starts going in on him. Dude rolls over. She takes the ruler I think she had take the ruler when she hit him with the ruler the first time. It was in the chest or something like that. When she gets after stabbing him with that pencil, she grabs that ruler out and she throws it right into his neck. And then when it's in his neck, it's showing it sticking up. Well, then Becky just starts stomping that ruler. And every time she's stomping, you see the blood and it's showing the ruler just going deeper and deeper. Then next thing you know, the ruler pops out the other side of his neck. Like she just fucked Cole up. And so she sees this and she's done. Cole's dead. Well, she takes off because she knows there's another one. We got old Hammond, who's still out there. But she takes off. Early in the movie, you see that they have like a little pond and like a little deck with a boat and everything. She takes off down there. And she's rigging up another plan for the other dude. Like she gets some fishing line. You see her take some pieces of board with some nails in it. She ties it up like she's making a little trip line. So she goes off back into the woods and she finds Hammond and basically gets him to start chasing her. And Hammond's chasing her down there. She gets him to the pond. She jumps across that little zip line, that little piece of fishing line on the deck. Well, here comes big boy Hammond coming out through there. He trips, hits that fucking trip line, bam, lands on that 2x4 that had the nail in it. And it's right in his chest, in his side or something. Well, then Becky had another one laying over there where she was standing. She picks that one up. She comes at him, starts swinging. And it's showing it like sticking to the side of his head and stuff like that. So she's fighting this dude. Well, he starts fighting back because he's a fat boy. Them nails there's a whole lot them nails got to go through. So when she's hitting him, they start kind of going at it. Well, she eventually does something. I think she hits him or something and he falls into the water. Well, big boy Hammond can't swim too well. He's just barely trying to fucking tread water. Well, then back in the house, them two haven't shown back up yet. So now Dominick is basically telling Apex, you need to go find her. Because all they have now is Kayla and Ty in the house. So Apex is on his way out there to go fucking track her down. And while we're back at the pool, not the pool, shit, the pond, but dude's still treading water trying to get, Becky jumps in the boat. And I thought maybe when I seen that, she's going to take the boat right off somewhere else around the property. And then, so I didn't know what was coming. Becky starts trying to start the boat up. She finally gets it started. And then Becky throws it in reverse because Hammond is like behind the boat, trying to tread water, trying to get out of the fucking water. She throws this boat into reverse and she starts going towards him. And I'm sitting there like, oh shit, she's going to fucking run that motor propeller right up into him. And so she's coming at him and he can't fucking swim. So he's just doing everything. He keeps going under, back up. Next thing you know, that boat propeller is just right into his fucking gut. And you hear it just eating him up. And he's fucking just, it's killing him. It's not a quick little like she drives it on him, backs it back. No, she drives it into him and it just goes on digging into him, you know, until you finally start to see his ass floating in the water, you know. Well, she then fucked him up. She goes to head back to the house now. And when she comes up the hill, she looks and there is fucking Apex. And he's just looking at her. She's looking at him. And Apex does not want to hurt her because a couple of times he has mentioned about the kids. He had mentioned it to Dominick about what they did to those kids out on the highway. He doesn't want to hurt her. He needs that key so they can fucking leave. And while he's standing there, Diego, the other dog, had gotten loose out of the little playhouse. He had got the door to open up. Well, he's coming to find Becky. He's hauling ass. And you can hear him. Like she hears him barking and coming. Well, then Apex turns and you hear the dog coming. And I'm like, once again, not an animal person, but I'm like, y'all gonna kill two fucking animals in this movie? Well, then Diego comes running, he jumps. When he jumps, fucking Apex just punches him. And Apex is huge. When he hits him, you hear Diego, the little bark sound, the little yelp sound they make, hits the ground. And Becky, once again, loses. She starts chasing after, go charging fucking Apex. Well, Apex is just way too big. He snatches her up. He's dragging her. He picked her up. He's just walking back up the hill. Becky like bites his arm, and she gets loose. Well, then he grabs her and he throws her down. Well, then he punches her, like, and right into, he punches her. When he gets her loose, when she bites him, he like does a wrestling move on her and fucking slams her to the ground. Then he just straight up punches her in the chest. And that would have drove every bit of air out of that little girl out. When he punches her, you could tell it just like sucked all her air out. And so he's sitting there looking at her, and he's basically like kind of holding her down and was going. You could tell at that moment, and then all of a sudden he stops, and he's like, he has this moment of like, I can't do this anymore. And so he's talking to her, and he's like, I can't do this anymore. And he's basically telling her, like, you've killed 2 people. Like, you don't come back. It's hard to come back from that. That will kind of stay with you. And he's basically telling her, he was like, but you can, move on from it. Don't be like I am. And he's like, basically want a new beginning. He wants to be done. He's done with Dominick and everything. So he gets up, she gets up, and he's kind of standing there. Well, he just walks off, like goes off into the little field area, starts walking off. Well, Diego wakes up. Ladies and gentlemen, Diego's okay. He comes running over there. She's, petting him and stuff like that. And so she's got to get back. She starts heading back to the house. In the house, Dominick is trying to talk shit with Kayla, going at her, trying to get her to fucking get on the, call her back, make her come to the house. And Kayla's a badass bitch too, because she's just like, that little girl just lost her mother. You just killed her dad. And she basically told her, like, she doesn't like me. Like, she's not going to come because I asked her to, or stuff like that. Becky gets back to the house, and Kevin James is looking for her. Well, Becky had the little plan. She had grabbed some keys from her dad to the van outside. But she starts setting off car alarms in the van. Well, James hears it, goes outside. It's dark outside. He's walking around. He knows that he thinks it's fucking Apex. He's walking around. He gets out to the van. Well, then right when he gets there, the car alarm stops. Back in the house, Kayla had managed to work her way to the kitchen and got that knife that she found on the counter. She had cut her little tape on her hands, cut the tape on Ty's hand. Funny part to watch when she does that, though, when she gets to Ty to cut his tape, she breaks the rule of, if you're using a knife to cut anything, because she's pulling up on this thing, like she sticks it in between his hands and is pulling up with the sharp part. If that thing would have caught old Ty right in the face, Ty might have been dead. But she gets him loose. But then we go back outside. The car alarm stops. On these new minivans now, you got a button where you push it, that door opens up automatically. He's standing there kind of looking in the window, and the door opens up. And when he kind of looks in there, Diego comes out, just grabs him by the arm, like locks in on him. And Dominick's fighting, trying to get fucking Diego off. Diego ain't letting go. And so he finally gets loose. He finally basically, at that point, the door, you can manually close it. So he basically slams the door, hits Diego with it. You hear Diego yelp. And Diego's not dead. FYI, Diego makes it all the way through. So Dominick kind of stumbles back once he's loose. He's looking around. Well, then badass Becky's sitting in Kayla's car. She fires this thing up. See the headlights come on. She nails the gas, driving it right at Dominick. Fucking hits him. Dominick kind of goes off to the side, drops the gun and everything. Well, Becky, you can tell, 13, she don't know how to drive. She's just driving this thing straight. And it kind of goes off to the side of the house and hits a tree. Well, the good thing when it hit that tree is Kayla has that like OnStar type thing in her car. So when she hits the tree, the lady comes on there. And she's like, we're detecting the airbags have been deployed. Are you okay? Can you talk? Well, Becky gets out of the car. Well, then that kind of automatically lets you know, like, okay, that's going to send some help out there. So Becky gets out, and she comes around, goes out to a little barn, and she in the little shed or whatever. Well, she grabs something and she leaves. Well, then Dominick is out still trying to find her. and he comes up on the fire pit, and there is Becky sitting there at the fire pit with some fucking marshmallows, and he walks up to her and he starts talking to her, and she's kind of standing up, and they're kind of like doing this little walk around the fire talking to each other. And he's basically telling her like he wants to take her with him. Like he's talking to her like, I can teach you, and like you can come with me and I will help you. You got all this potential type shit, because he just assumes she's fucking cold-hearted. And he's basically telling her like you're a foster, you don't have a kid now, you're an orphan. I said that wrong. She's an orphan. That's basically what he's telling her. You have no parents, you've killed people. Like, who's going to want to adopt you? Like, nobody's going to want you knowing that you have killed people. So you basically just bounce around inside a foster home, the foster homes, and you're never going to have anything. And she starts talking, and I forget what all she says, but she pulls out a damn water gun, and he's kind of looking at her like, okay, really, let's stop with the games, let's stop it. And he's basically trying to tell her, and she basically pulls the trigger on this water gun. Well, she had filled this water gun up with gasoline. When it shoots through the fire, because he's on the other side of the fire pit, it's just like a little flamethrower. That shit hits him and it fucking lights him up. And he's sitting there just screaming, rolled on the ground. And he was smart, he knew the old game back in school, stop, drop, and roll. That's what he did. And when she starts coming at him, he gets the fire out. But then she throws something with the water gun at him, or he tries to get away. Well, she tries to get away. He comes at her, he grabs her, and he's got her on the ground. He sees the key. He takes the key because he's seen she had it. So he's choking her, like he's going to kill her. Well, then they know somebody comes by and hits him, and he goes falling off. For a moment there, I thought, was the dad maybe wasn't dead? Maybe. I thought it might have been Jeff. Well, no, Apex had come back. And he basically knocks him off. And Becky gets up, kind of takes off, getting out of the way. Apex is basically telling Dominick, like, hey, man, this is done. And he's like, Dominick's like, I got the key. We can finish our plan. And he's like, yeah, but you don't do it with the kid. Let the kid go. You got the key. Let her go. And so he's just not going to have it. Well, he basically shoots Dominick. Not Dominick. Dominick shoots Apex. They start fighting. And while they're out there fighting, Apex is a big dude. One little bullet to the chest area, whatever. It's going to take him a minute to go down. So Becky runs back off into the little barn, whatever thing. She uncovers, had a tarp over something. She pulls out, there's a four-wheeler. So I'm thinking, okay, she's going to get on this four-wheeler, and she's just going to take off, get out there. So they're still out there fighting, Dominick and Apex. She pulls off in the four-wheeler. I'm thinking, okay, she's just going to go get help. When the four-wheeler pulls off, you realize hooked to the back of this four-wheeler is like a little, back home in the South, we call them a bush hog. It's like where it cuts grass. So as you pull it, it rotates the little shaft, and you pull it around and cut grass with it. So when you see this, I'm like, oh, shit, she's going to go after him. So she's coming up the hill with that four-wheeler, man. She's moving, lights is on. Well, Apex looks up, sees it coming. He rolls off to the side. Well, Becky runs over Dominick. And when she gets over him, she hits the brake and stops that fucking little bush hog thing right on top of Dominick. And that thing's just cutting. You see the blood coming out the side of it. She's got it sitting there for a minute, too. She don't just hit him and run. She parks it on him. And so this shit's just flying everywhere. When she finally pulls it off, it shows him his fucking head had been basically just chopped clean in half. Like you could see it shows it up close. You can see the brain, like half the head is fucking just sawed off, where she just had them blades sitting on him. And so she gets off the damn four-wheeler, and she basically gets the gun. I can't remember if she shot Kevin James again, Dominick, just for shits and giggles. I can't remember. But Apex is over there. Apex gets up on his knee. He's talking to her, and you're thinking, because of how he let her go earlier, like maybe they were going to kind of all, she was going to team up with it. I don't know. I didn't know what was coming. Well, lo and behold, Becky, who's in fucking straight cold killer mode, takes this fucking gun, spin, and just shoots Apex right in the fucking head. Like, boom, dead. Another one of them, like, oh shit moments that I enjoy in a movie. And Becky goes off to the side. Diego's there. She's sitting there. And Kayla and Ty come out. And for a minute there, I thought, is Becky going to knock off fucking Kayla and Ty? But they come around the corner. She sees her sitting there. She sits down next to her. They don't say anything. They're all just sitting there. And you start hearing the police lights. Here come the police. Well, then that's where it takes us back to where we started. The law enforcement is questioning Becky on everything that happened. And Becky's basically not remembering anything. And so the police officers kind of step out there talking. We show Becky sitting there, and she's got the necklace on still with the key on it. You still don't know what this key's for, but she's sitting there holding that key, and she just got this look on her face. Like a switch has been flipped in Becky. And so she's holding it. She's sitting there eating her some fucking gummy worms. And then that's how it wraps up. So that was it. That's it for Becky. I was so surprised with this movie. I enjoyed this movie. I have scrolled by it so many times, but this one was fun. It was not what I expected. It was not the little comedy type, horror type shit. No, this thing has some serious moments in it. It had some good killing in it. Kids is getting fucked up in it. Animals is getting fucked up in it. And I like it. I enjoyed it. For this one, like I said, I rate them on a fuck, marry, or kill. Marrying it be the best. Fucking it means every blue moon I want to pop it in and watch it. Maybe just it's a booty call. Killing it means that's that fucking one night stand sea donkey that I never want to fucking see again. So, but for this one, this is a marry for me. I enjoyed this movie. This was fun. It had good killing in it. It had good. I enjoyed it. It's not, maybe people won't like it because of the animal stuff. I got it. But for me, this is a marry. I will definitely want to watch this again. For me, it was a fun, enjoyable watch. It had good little twist to it. So yeah, it's a marry for me. I 100% enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed the cast. I enjoyed Kevin James being this fucking cold-hearted killer guy. I liked it. Becky, little badass bitch, she was so good. Then I realized, I just found out recently, there is a part 2 to this. So there's a sequel that just came out this year, actually. I think it was like March of 2023 of this year. It came out. So I'm definitely going to be looking for that one. But yeah, for me, this is 100% married. Enjoyed this movie. So I highly recommend it. Go check it out. Don't think it's going to be comedy, ha, 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 because of Kevin James in it. It's not. It's got it's not that type of movie. Got some killing in it. Becky goes hard. But yeah, I am glad I finally gave it a chance, and I'm glad I watched it. So I'm recommending it to you to go check it out. Once you do, let me know. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know how you'd rate it. But yeah, I think that's going to do it. I made it through this whole thing without taking one single break. Maybe I'm just not as addicted to coffee as I am Gentleman and Jack. But I will take one real quick. That was a coffee break. Thank you. Coffee break. But yeah, that's going to do it. Thanks for sitting in. Thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out with me for a little while we shoot the shit about a horror movie. But yeah, go check us out. All the social media, Fright Flick FMK. The websites have a link. Those social sites have a link to the website. Find us on all the normal podcasting stuff. Go like, subscribe, leave a comment, leave a 5-star review, leave whatever review you think of me in this show. I'm okay. I got thick skin. It doesn't bother me. But yeah, that's going to do it. Until next time. So thank you again for hanging out. Thank you again for listening. But at this time, I will need y'all to gather up all your shit. I will need all of y'all to grab your drinks, your coffee. If you're listening to this at 5:30 in the morning, it better be fucking coffee. But if you're in another part of the world, like some people, like our friend Becky in Australia, hey, drink away. So grab your drinks, put your chairs away, and get the fuck out of here.